I think I am like genuinely at my most peaceful self when I am consuming this much fiction. I don't know what else to say, but we've got a 2-month wrap up. So here are all of the books that I read and DNF'd in January and February, and a little bit of what I'm reading in March. I actually should probably get set up. Also, it's like the day after daylight savings, so this is the sun at 10:51. Oh my god, it's 10:51. Just so you're aware and I'm aware, this lipstick probably won't make it through the entirety of this video, and I want to do a little a little catch up, because I think the last thing I posted was 2 vlogs, 2 back vlogs. So we're gonna sit down and have a little sesh in case you don't watch the vlogs and you just want to watch the wrap-ups as soon as I find Storygraph, because that's where I track all of my reading. It's gonna be like a 3-parter video. We're gonna talk about some reading habits that I've changed from 24, 25 and into 26, the years. And then we're going to talk about the books that I read and the books that I DNF'd, and then some of the books that I'm reading currently and some upcoming vlogs and videos to look for. I love how we have like housekeeping meeting, like housekeeping notes. Lee Cannoli. Okay, Storygraph reading stats. If you're ever like, yo, what is this chick reading? She's not updating on TikTok or Instagram. I am on Storygraph religiously. Like, I'm clocking into Storygraph like it is my job. Okay, we're back. Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Hannah, and we are doing a little wrap up update chit chat. My lipstick is like slowly but surely coming off on this cup. I didn't do a beginning of the year like resolutions or goals or anything like that. I just wanted to see if these first 2 months could truly be a trial month, to see if, one, I even wanted to still make content, if I wanted to keep sharing reading online with everybody, or if I just needed to like make it fun for me again. There's two little TikTok sounds and comments bouncing around my head. The first one is, so actually it only has to make sense for me to do it, and I don't feel like explaining it to anybody else. And the other one is, once I realized it was my social media, I started doing what I wanted. Probably like not word for word, but the gist of it, of like, it's my social media and I don't have to explain anything to anybody. I could just post the content that I like watching, because other people obviously like watching it as well. I did make some changes, and these changes have taken me from last year around this time. I think I had read a total of 4 books, which is good. That's more than the average person. 4 books to 14 in the first 2 months of the year, which is insane, because one, I feel like I'm a pretty slow reader, and I feel like I get overwhelmed. I just like don't want to continue to read a book or a series, and I just like, I'm a chronic series abandoner if I'm not binging it. That is one part that has made like the wanting to be a bookish person online like fun again. It's like I can do whatever I want. The other thing is that I've taken off all of the stupid rules. Well, they're not, I think they're stupid. I've taken off all of the stupid rules that have kind of kept me in a reading slump. First off, I don't set yearly goals anymore. I used to set like between 50 and 100 books a year, but I got to this point where I kept thinking like, I'm not gonna finish in time. I want to make this video, it's not gonna go up in time. I don't have enough time basically, and I need to reach my goal. So I would scrap videos, I would scrap content ideas, I would scrap reading time altogether because I didn't have time. I would like pick up a book, flip to the back of it. If it was more than 300 pages, I was putting it down because I was like, I don't have time for anything over 300 pages. If I was like scrolling through Libby or Libro FM, I can't listen to anything longer than 8 to 12 hours, knowing good and darn well that that is like most of audiobooks are 8 to 12 hours. So I got rid of goals because if I don't have a goal, I'm not competing with myself, then I do have the time to book. I do have the time to listen to a 12-hour audiobook. I have the time to record this 2-3 week long vlog because I feel like it and I have the time to edit. There is no like end goal. I just talk about books in my living room now. Like it used to be, I talked about books in my corner of my bedroom. I would just talk about books in my living room. But when I remembered that reading is for me and I just want to share it with you guys, and there is no goal, there is no time constraint, I was having a blast. I was breezing through books. I didn't care about anything of like no goals, no numbers, no nothing. The second thing that I did was I don't do TBRs. I've always been bad at TBRs. Like one of my videos on YouTube is a May TBR. I didn't follow that. However, I do reading themed weeks and reading themed months, and I'm actually getting through like a lot of books that have been on my to be read list for years. So browse all of your books, make themed TBRs and reading weeks and reading months. Ditch all of the reading goals unless you really like goals, then keep those, I guess. But for me, I would much rather see the stats than like have some type of like arbitrary end number. 'Cause I know what my physical unread TBR is. I know what my digital unread TBR is. No way I'm getting to that in a year, but I can like make progress to it. I think I decided what tea we're drinking. We are drinking salted caramel black tea. It's really good actually. I don't think I've had a bad tea day. That's not true. I had like a lemon ginger. That one was not, that was not it. I did not grab all of the books that we were going to talk about. And that's fine. Let's start with January. I have very little notes because, again, I track everything on Storygraph. I thought about making a Notion board, and as much as I want to be a Notion girly, I'm just not. I'm just not. I started off this year by listening slash reading, because I couldn't get my hands on the physical book, of like one of the hottest series right now, and that is Game Changers by Rachel Reed. One thing about me is I wish I could read books out of order. I wish I did not care about the reading order of a series, but alas I do. I do. And so everyone's talking about Heated Rivalry, and I needed to know what the first book in the series was, which is Game Changers, and you are following Scott and Kip. Scott is the captain of like the New York Admirals team, which you hear about, I believe, in the TV show. I haven't watched the show. Don't comment anything about the show. I haven't watched it yet. I believe they're mentioned in the show. Like, you see Scott and Kip in the show, but you don't get their full story on screen. The book is like, I think about it all the time, and I'm not gonna be normal about this. You're following Scott and Kip. Scott is a closeted hockey player. He's the captain of the New York Admirals. Kip works his dead-end job at a juice bar. He is very open about being gay and being queer. He's talked to his friends and family about it. He is also a historian. He's graduated with his degree history. I think it's art history or just history in general. But he wants to get something that's like a little bit more like accessible for jobs. So like maybe a master's in history, a master in art history, a master in museum history, museum science, something like that. He's pondering going back to school because he lives in New York, and there's a lot of job opportunities, but he just doesn't have, one, the education, and two, the money, which is why he's working this dead-end job to pay his student loans, and he's really stressed about that. But one day, Scott comes into his little job and he's like, you know what, I can be stressed and miserable, but there's this cute guy, he's probably straight, he's a hockey player, I think, maybe, I don't know. Let's flirt with him a little bit, what's the harm? Then Scott flirts back, and Kip does not know what to do. Scott orders a random blueberry drink on the menu, and then after this interaction, he proceeds to play the best game he has played all season. Like, everyone is like, oh my god, this is a different Scott than we've seen on the ice in such a long time. Keeps going back to get this smoothie, and everyone's like, oh, the smoothie's the good luck charm, and Scott is like, no, it is just the fact that I've met somebody that I genuinely like and want to date. And so they do start a secret relationship where they are dating, but nobody can know. And Kip is feeling very happy. He's like, oh my god, like, this hot, successful, rich hockey player is chasing me, first off. But second, I don't want to be a secret, and I also have career goals and aspirations that I want to achieve, but I can't do that if I'm constantly hiding with Scott. I don't want to hide our relationship anymore. So he eventually gives Scott the ultimatum of either you come out or we just can't be together. That is a very like rough explanation of the first book. If you watched the show, you saw the ending of their story, but there is so much to the beginning and middle of Scott and Kip, and they take over my brain, and I think about them all the time. And the events of book 1 do play out and have consequences for books 2 through 6, I believe. I haven't read all of them yet. We'll get there. I love this. Like, I would take another Scott and Kip story, which we kind of get that in the one that I'm currently reading. And immediately after finishing Game Changer, I jumped into Heated Rivalry. I will not be going into the full explanation because everyone and their mother knows about this book and the show. However, you're following Shane and Ilya. Shane Hollander, Ilya Rozanov, they're on rival teams. They have this huge media beef where they hate each other. Like, their teams have been rivals. They have been rivals since their like rookie years. They are big names. They're big names. And the entire time they have been hiding a 10-year love affair. And book 1 is Heated Rivalry for them because they have another book, and it is the entire 10 years of their secret hidden relationship. The events of book 1 happen, and then their plan to kind of like switch the narrative of what if we did come out, because Scott does eventually come out, spoiler, sorry, but like, what if we did come out, you know, what if we did decide to take this public. That is their story. There is a lot of like angst and spice and tension, but there's so much emotion at the heart of Shane and Ilya's story, which I think is buried. There's a lot of tender moments between the two characters, and I don't want to like give it a full review endorsement because it feels incomplete. I will say that, like, their story feels incomplete, which I guess it is because there are 2 more books now. They're getting one, I think, next year, next June or something like that. I don't know. They're getting another book, so it feels very incomplete, whereas like every other couple, their story has a full arc in their book. Shane and Ilya are the only 2 that get revisited, like they come back to their story. After literally going to Pound Town with Shane and Ilya for like 300 pages, I decided I needed a break. I needed a break from Heated Rivalry. I needed a break from Game Changers. I was like, this is a lot of smut back to back. Need a break. Not mad about it, but I do need to read something else, and I decided to finish a series. I vlogged this. I never posted it. I want to put it in something. I don't know what. You guys tell me. Like, what do I do with the ending of this like series that I've just filmed? But I finished Fallen Academy Year 3, 3.5, and Year 4. As a series, I'm going to review it as a whole. Give the early to mid 2010s vibe of, I would have found this probably on Wattpad or AO3 or some random forum stack whatever site and read all like 1,000 pages. I would have like devoured it in a night had I been able to. Had I found this at 16, 17 years old, I would have ate this up. And Leah Stone is one of those authors where she's very hit or miss for me. You are following just like Fallen Angel's arc, if you will, of paranormal YA. A main character who has powers that nobody has ever seen before. She doesn't know how to control them. She's wanted by both the good and the bad guys. And she's falling in love. And she's trying to save her family from the clutches of evil demons and free her best friend. It has all of the key like early 2010s to mid 2010s YA fantasy paranormal that I've been craving in a series for such a long time. I will say that taking a break between the series did do me a little bit of a disservice, because if you can see, book 3 is honkin' huge, book 4 is so small. It's so little. And I feel like book 4 was a little unsatisfying because I didn't have the momentum of the first 2 books to like keep pushing it along. So if you are going to pick up this series, I suggest get it from the library and read all 4 books at once. If you can get your hands on the novella, which is Year 3.5, I would read that too. That follows the love interest for a year. There's events in book 2 and 3 where our main character goes missing, and you are following the love interest as she's gone for that year and everything he goes through, which does come full circle at the beginning of book 4 and the end. So like what Lincoln does, that's love interest, what Lincoln does very much matters. And I feel so bad for not being able to give it a full like review and summary and synopsis, but you really have to read the first 2 to continue. Like, they are a series. It's not like interconnected standalones. You're following the same set of cast members, same set of characters for 4 books, nearly 1,000 pages. I would happily do it again. I will say the only thing about the audiobooks, if you're going to get the audiobooks, is that Year 3.5 is unfortunately only available on Audible. So I paid $3 for it. I don't know how I think it was on sale, but I don't know how much it usually is. I paid $3 for the audiobook just because I knew I had driving to do, and I was like, I need to finish this. Let's talk about Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. I listened to this on Spotify because none of my libraries had it on release day, and I didn't know if it was going to be a title that I wanted to keep on my shelf, if I would ever recommend or talk about it. So I just wanted to like listen to it. It was a 4 or 5 hour-ish audiobook, and you are following a 16, I think she's 17 when the story starts, and then she turns 18, but her name is Waldo. And here's the blurb. Waldo is ravenous, horny, blunt, naive, wise, impulsive, lonely, angry, forceful, hurting, and endlessly wanting. And the one thing she wants most of all is Mr. Corgi, her creative writing teacher. It is that type of story. It is the very taboo and illegal of our 17, 18-year-old main character Waldo goes into her creative writing class and is just enamored with her teacher, Mr. Corgi, and that's what she calls him the entire book. I do not know this man's name. He is married, he has a kid, and as he describes himself, he is a loser, he is a failure. And that kind of intrigues Waldo more of like, oh, like he is broken and I feel broken. She comes from a trailer park home. Her mother is very man obsessed and neglectful. She has a dead-end job working at her rundown mall, and she has no plans of going to college after she finishes high school. She just plans to stay in her little town in Alaska and do nothing but work, and maybe that's it. You get a lot of Waldo's perspective on life and how she feels through her actions. She has an eating disorder. She has a shopping addiction. She is very pessimistic. She's mean. She has no friends, and the friends that she does have, she's kind of like pushed away throughout the events of the story. Her and her teacher do start an affair, and it is framed at first as Waldo is like, this is all she wants. She just wants him, and it gets to a violent, disturbing, stalkerish part. And then when she finally gets him, she's like, this is disgusting. I don't want to be with this man anymore. I don't care that I've like blown up my life, his life. I don't really want to be with him anymore. And that's the story. It's like, I haven't read My Dark Vanessa, and I don't plan on it either. I really don't. But I think that character in that book, I think, don't you like follow her through like her adulthood as well? Waldo, it's just this glimpse in time. It is just this year of her life. At the core of the story, Jeanette McCurdy talked about how this was written from her own perspective of being in a very toxic, obsessive relationship with an older man. I do think that if Jeanette McCurdy wanted to write a body horror, a feminist body horror, she could, because this book was also disgusting in its imagery and its narration. It was a lot. It was a lot, and like I said, a ride I would not get on again. I don't know who I would recommend this book to, because it should have been a psychological thriller. It should have been a dark horror, but instead it's just a dark literary fiction, and she could have made it a horror or a thriller and all. That would have been interesting. Then I read Heartsick by Christina Forrest. This is her newest release, I believe. It came out October of 2025, and it's young adult. I listened to this exclusively on audio, which I was gonna get the physical book, but I work in a bookstore, and there was this kid that came in and he was looking for a romance. He was like, I want to read a romance book. I've never read one. And so I told him, I was like, well, this is what I'm reading. It's a young adult romance. I gave him the synopsis and he was sold immediately. He has since come back and told me that he loved that book so much. Following two high schoolers, Isaac and Margot. They are high school sweethearts. They have a very lovely meet cute story. However, when we meet them, they are broken up and they are in their senior year. It's right before prom, and Margot is working at a Healing Hearts clinic. In this world, there is a pill like ibuprofen or Tylenol where you can take it to get over a heartbreak. Like if you are heartbroken about a divorce, about the loss of a loved one, you can take this and you will forget ever being in love with that person, and all of those feelings will just go away. It suppresses all of that pain. And Margot is working at the Healing Hearts clinic as an intern, just so she can kind of like hopefully maybe get an interview with the founder, with the creator of this pill, just to ask him a couple of questions. She wants to be a journalist when she goes to college, and she's thinking that maybe if she interns here, one, it looks really good on a resume, but also she could get an interview and she could put that on a resume and she can publish it of like, I got this exclusive like one-on-one with the like most famous, infamous person of our time right now. This pill is a very controversial, and we see that play out in the book, of getting rid of a basic human emotion. And while Margot is working there and she's like listening to all of these people coming in and she's doing their intake form and she's figuring out why they're taking this pill, she sees Isaac walk in one day and they make eye contact. And he bolts, he dips. Isaac is heartbroken over their breakup. He's like, I lost my best friend. So he's thinking, you know what, if I just take a Healing Hearts pill, I don't even have to feel this anymore. I don't have to feel like a failure or a loser or like I'm missing her. She's probably not even missing me. And he doesn't know that Margot is interning at the Healing Hearts clinic. So when he sees her, he immediately is like, this is a mistake. I don't want this pill. I would rather talk to her, but he doesn't know how to express that. So while Margot is like thinking about Isaac, I want to call him Isaiah. While she's thinking about while Margot is thinking about Isaac and why he was at the clinic, the co-CEO comes in and she's like, you know what, this isn't like an interview with the creator of the Healing Hearts pill, but this is an interview with someone high up. And as she's trying to get their attention, she overhears a conversation that is linked to some lawsuits that she's heard about Healing Hearts and linked to some side effects. She just runs. She just like flees, and they chase her now. And who is there to go talk to her but Isaac? So now he's also a part of this investigation, and they go on a cross-country adventure to figure out why Healing Hearts is lying about the side effects, what could be causing the side effects, and to find the first person to come forward with the lawsuit and also like urging people not to take this pill. And as they're on the cross-country adventures, you're meeting so many people who have polarizing like thoughts and ideas about the Healing Hearts pill. You're watching Margot and Isaac fall back in love with each other, and I think about that book like all the time. I think about that book all the time when I'm sad, when I see other people that are sad, and like I would not get rid of this basic human emotion. But you do meet people who are like offered it time and time and again. That I believe there's like an elderly woman who loses her husband just to old age, and her doctors were like, you can take this, like it'll be, she's like, no, because not only am I getting rid of the fact of like, okay, he's gone, I'm getting rid of every good memory I've ever had with him, and I would never get rid of every good memory just to replace like this feeling. Like I know I'll be okay, like I know that I'll heal, but it's kind of like you don't really remember all of the bad things, you remember the good things about people. I loved this young adult speculative piece. I would say speculative fiction. Others are like, it's just a regular contemporary. I'm like, I don't know. It brings up a lot of what ifs and a lot of questions. And to me, that's what speculative fiction should do. It should ask you a lot of questions and like let you think about them and ponder them. My camera's over here. And we are 2 books away from the end of January. So we're almost done. Okay, let's finish up January reviews and wraps. Next. So after like the roller coaster that was Half His Age and then the like emotional squeeze of Heartsick, I decided to pick up the Rose Bargain. This is vlogged actually. 95% sure that this is in a reading vlog where I did not know what I was gonna read, but it was on my list for a minute and I was like, you know what, January feels like a really fitting time to read the Rose Bargain. So I picked it up. It took me a little bit to get into, just a little bit, but it is part of a duology and the next book comes out in April. So a little bit of an incomplete review. This one you're following, oh, who is it? I forgot her name, Ivy. You're following Ivy. It is set in like the 1800s in a like fantastical England where a fae queen won the War of the Roses, and she gives all of her citizens, all of her countrymen, the option to make a rose bargain with her. You can bargain for anything, but she will take something, and historically her bargains have been bloody. She's taken a toe, she's taken teeth, a tongue, your ability to like, oh, what is it? I'm pretty sure sleep or eat. Some of them get a little silly goofy, like you can't make left turns, you remember everything. And I think like one of her most cruelest ones is probably a character that we meet in here that has a lot of information. I was like, that was a really cruel bargain actually. And I'm thinking about that character a lot. Cause like what happened to him? Where is he? And so Ivy's sister made a rose bargain, and for like men and boys, they can make their bargains whatever, but when girls make their bargain, it's usually during their debut into proper society. This year, when all of the girls debut, not only do they get their rose bargain, but the Fae Queen has 2 sons, a human son and a fae. The human son is like the playboy. The Fae son is looking for a wife. And so she's like, all right, battle royale, make them compete. And the stakes are high because if the Fae prince doesn't pick them, they can never marry anybody else again. They live out their life as a spinster. And I believe it's like 12 or like 24 girls volunteer. And they will whittle it down from 24 to 12 to 6. So like in the first couple of chapters that they've decided to do this, we've gotten rid of over half. Ivy's thinking, you know what, if my bargain doesn't work, I could always become like the princess. I could become the princess and then maybe I can like bring some notoriety to my family. So she is fighting tooth and nail to get the prince to notice her and like her, but she doesn't know anything about him and she doesn't know how to get his attention. In comes the human brother who's like, I will teach you everything you need to know about Bram. Prince Bram is his name. And in return, I just need you to help me figure out how to break the curses. She's like, what? What do you mean? Like, I'm just trying to get him to fall in love with me. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to break any curses, but maybe, I don't know. So she's stuck between, do I fall in love with a fae prince or a human prince? And then do I help him break the curses or do I mind my business? That is the first book. I have thoughts on the ending of book 1. I'm going to keep them to myself until I finish book 2, and then I'll give a full spoiler about this, because I feel like there were some plot lines that were thrown away, and I feel like there were some plot devices that were used incorrectly. There was just a little bit of things that were set up, and I felt like they had no payoff because of how they were used. Again, an incomplete review because it is a duology. Is book 2 like the top of my radar? Will I be reading it on release day? Probably not, but I do want to finish it in the year. And then the last book that I read was Tough Guy by Rachel Reed. This is book 3 in the Game Changer series. This is following Ryan and Fabian. Ryan you meet in book 2 briefly, and then he gets his own book, and he has been traded team after team after team, and he plays the role of like the enforcer, so kind of like protects the star player. He's the one that starts the fights, he's the one that like takes on the fights on the ice, and usually goes into the penalty box. And he's been doing this for such a long time, and he's kind of just over it. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like the perception of me on the ice. I have a lot of anxiety about flying, about fighting. Like, this just isn't a career I want to stay in at all anymore. Like, it's not fun anymore for him. And then you have Fabian, who is a musician, kind of has a history with Ryan. They know each other from when they were younger. So they meet, they meet at like a convenience store or something. And they're catching up, and Ryan's like he's just asking him how it's been, and Fabian is like, do you know that you live in the queer part of Toronto? Like, you live in like the gay scene area and you don't know anything or anyone here? What's going on with that? Ryan is not closeted, but he's also like not a superstar athlete. Like, he's not mega famous like Scott and Shane and Ilya in the first 2 books. So he's been openly out for a while, but no one knows him. Like, no one knows who he is, so nobody asks any questions. So Fabian is like, I will take you with me and my friends, and we will go out and we will explore. And they start a very hot and heavy relationship. But Fabian hates hockey players because of his childhood and growing up surrounded by them. So he is like, I like Ryan, I don't like Ryan's profession. And Ryan also doesn't like Ryan's profession. I really liked Ryan as a character. I loved him. I did not love Fabian as much. I think what I didn't love about Fabian was that he was just like, yeah, I'm perfect. Ryan has to quit his job and then we can be together. Like, that was the vibe that I was getting. That was being like pushed the entire book. And I was like, I'm kind of over this narrative already of like, Ryan's job is the problem, even though he does want to leave it. He has expressed wanting to leave it, but also not knowing how to do so. I feel like now is a good time to pause between January and February and talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd. No synopsis or anything, just reasons why I DNF'd them and if I will give them a chance. Again, the first one was The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. I loved Heartsick. I love that book so much, and I jumped into this one and I was so bored. I was 140 pages in and I didn't care about anything that was happening. Like, the first 60 pages were so good. The rest, up until page 140, I just really didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the romance. Nothing about the story was like making me want to stay, which was a complete 180 from Heartsick, where everything about that story was making me want to stay. Everything about the characters made me want to like be in the book. So a DNF for now. I think I will read the other 2 books in the series and then come back to this book. And then this is an arc of Fallen Gods by Rachel Van Dyken. Romantasy. I think it's technically, yeah, it's a romantic fantasy that follows daughter of Odin going to college, and I did not know that. I don't know what I thought this book was about, but I did not think that it was about the daughter of Odin going to college to like find out history about her father and their powers and why their powers are dying and diminishing. This came out December of 2025, and I've had the arc for a little bit, and I was like, you know what, let me give it a go. I started listening to the audiobook and I immediately hated it. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. This one just felt really juvenile and a waste of time. And I only got 30 pages in. So it was a DNF. I will probably put this in a little free library because it is an arc. I don't know if I'll ever go back to it, but stunning cover. And I know the sprayed edges, the finished copy, also stunning. I read 3 books in the month of February. 370 pages, and I listened to 32.52 hours of audiobook, and it took me about 2 days to read each book. I think the reason I didn't read a ton in February was, one, I was reading for vlogs and I was editing as well, and that usually takes me a little bit of time. Of the 3 books that I read, which it's insane to think that these are the only 3 books that I've read, the first book I think I've already talked about on TikTok, and it's also in that like mood reading vlog. It's at the very end because it was a sleeper agent of a wonderful time, and that is The Love Audit by Lucy Eden. This is my first Lucy Eden book, and this one is a workplace rivals to lovers. They're childhood rivals slash enemies to lovers. Their parents grew up really close to each other. They owned a business, and it is Jasmine and Derek. They have always had a little bit of this crush flirtation when they were younger, and then one day their parents' company dissolved, tensions exploded, and there was a lot of media scandal. Neither party put out any statement saying anything, and the like teenagers just never saw each other again. Fast forward 10, 13 years, and they are competing for the same PR marketing job at a newly merged company. So they had their own existing jobs at the 2 companies. Now they're competing for one, and they both see this upcoming project called Miller's Cove, and they want to figure out a way to market this town. So they decide to go pose as a married couple to explore the town, live there for a month or 2, and figure out what is the best way to essentially like exploit this town for a mega corporation. But once they get there, they realize that it is a Black owned town. Most, if not all, of the descendants live in this town are relatives or descendants of survivors from the Tulsa Massacre, and they have very strong pride, and you are watching Jasmine and Derek be like welcomed into their world, knowing that they are probably going to sell them out. And I would say that like at the center of this is also their friendship rekindling into a romance. How do they keep from exposing this town's secrets and like telling their giant bosses that they don't really want to continue to work on this project? I annotated it. I listened to this one, I think probably in a day or 2, because I couldn't stop reading the book. So when I had to do house chores, I definitely picked up the audiobook for the most part. I just started reading and I could not stop. I don't know what about this book was like, you have to finish this right now, but it was so good. And it was like the first book I read in February, so I just was thinking about it the entire month. Then season 4 of Bridgerton dropped, and I read one of the best historical fiction romances I've ever read in my life. I think there's a couple of them, they are all like up there. I think every historical romance I read just outdoes the previous one, and so I read Anna Maria and the Fox to get the Bridgerton feeling of I'm waiting for part 2. Hence a vlog that I dropped. I was waiting for part 2, and so I just decided to read as many of them as I could. I could not recommend them enough. Like, the grannies were hiding something from us. They're great. Please read them. This one follows one of the Luna sisters, and it is a forbidden romance between a Mexican heiress, who is Ana Maria, and a shrewd British politician, who is Gideon Fox. I think that this book has a lot of cultural backdrop to it that you need to know going into it. So it's taking place in the middle of the Civil War, in the middle of the French occupation of Mexico, and in the middle of a ton of like British and European scandal. That heavy political backdrop, and I love a book with political intrigue in there. There's nothing better than political intrigue where the stakes are high and you have characters actively working towards a goal together. So Ana Maria and her sisters flee Mexico to London to live with their uncle, and he decides that they're gonna go out into high society and hopefully change public opinion about what France is doing to Mexico, because they will be meeting 3 heiresses who have fled their homes. They're now in a new land. They're now meeting new people, and maybe public opinion can change the way Parliament is handling this. But then on the opposite side, you have Gideon, who is in Parliament, and he is working on his own proposal to have Britain denounce the slave trade and to endorse the North in the Civil War. So there's a lot happening between these 2 characters, and then baked into that is their romance. Is there like, will they, won't they, do they like each other, do they not like each other? I would say this gives political intrigue with Bridgerton, balls and outings, courting, and romance. And there are 2 other books in the series. I am reading the 2nd book right now. And then the last book I read was The Duke Gets Desperate by Diana Quincy. This one is, I think, one of the newest ones I read. It came out in 2023? Yes, this one came out in 2023, so it's one of the newest historical romances that I've read, but it was like, it was better than Anna Maria and the Fox, and I was like, how do we get better? But it was also raunchier. It was so spicy. It came out of nowhere, because I was just like reading, and then I was like, okay, had to go to work, popped in an audiobook, and I went, what is happening here? Our main character, Raya, has just inherited a castle from her cousin who she's never met before. Her cousin, who moved to England to get married and now has this estate, has left it to her. But her cousin also has a stepson, Anthony. I think it's Anthony. And he thought he was going to inherit the castle. What's up with that? So when Raya gets there, she is learning that there's no money to be had here, and she needs to figure out a way to make money quick to generate some type of income for them. And Anthony is fighting her tooth and nail until he realizes, like, oh, she's actually kind of making a lot of sense here. And she owns the property. Like, oh, she owns the property and she's making sense. But so many things happen. I feel like all historical romances have like 10 million different plots going on. Trying to inherit this castle, trying to turn it into a functioning museum, trying to turn it into like a little bit of a tea house cafe thing, figuring out what happened to her cousin, because there is a mystery with her cousin. Where is she? What happened to her? I need to know. Also, like, now Raya and Anthony are engaged and they're falling in love, and there's backstory between like what happened with him and his father and him and his sister and his mom. Like, there's a lot that goes into, like, there's a lot of moving pieces, and I read like 200 pages in a day, which is not normal for me at all. And then I stayed up really late to finish it because I was like, there was no world in which I was going to go to bed, wake up, and then finish the book. No, I was finishing this that night. And that's another thing of like falling into a book so deeply that you're like, I don't want to put it down, I don't want to go to bed, I need to finish it now. I did read the Dubelle books as well. We're not talking about those right now. That's for March and April's wrap. But clearly I was not paying attention to when I was reading these because I thought we had two more to discuss. Following like historical romances and reading diversely in them, like, you truly see yourselves in the story, or you can see people that are in your everyday life in the stories. I can hold them all. So here are all of the books that I read / DNF'd. There are a couple that I don't have physical copies of. For the most part, every book that I read, except for this one, is going in a little free library. This one on the fence of. But these are all of the books that I read and decided to keep on my shelf and probably reread, annotate. If I decide to get rid of them later, they'll probably go to the free little libraries because the bottom stack's annotated. This one, she's on the fence as well. And my battery's about to die. I like the 2-month wrap-ups. I really do. Because sometimes I feel like if one month is a little bit light, the other month will carry it. This time around, January was packed. I think 9 books is insane. And February was a little bit lighter, but I was vlogging, editing, and I had a blast with what I was reading. I think most of these have been in a video, in a vlog or something. I will put them at the end on the screen if I can remember which ones they are. Happy reading. Thanks for hanging out. Leave a comment, leave a like. Tell me what you've read. Tell me if you read any of these. How do you track your reading, actually? That's what I want to know. Answer that down below. How do you track your reading? If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much